Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the third RFP workshop meeting for the housing bond. This year, this RFP process, we're only addressing the rental options for workforce and affordability. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest. Yeah, I see everybody's in there. Please submit all of your questions via the chat so we can record them and have them documented. Please, everybody, could you make sure that you're muted so that we don't have any interference? We'll go through the process and the presentation, and I will try to monitor the chat so that here we go. We've got some stuff. I will try to monitor the chat as we go, and I'll answer questions as I can. But again, we will document the questions and post them on the website for everybody. It's 10:01, so I guess we're just going to go ahead and get started. This is the Housing Bond Loan Program for multifamily rental and workforce and affordable housing. It is not for, we're not including any for sale in this project. Sorry about that. I'll start with the RFP process overview. The RFP will be made available. Then we'll have the RFP submittal. I'll get into the dates and the actual times and the restrictions later on. We'll get into more detail. The selection committee will happen. Then we'll have BCC conceptual approval. Projects that are conceptually approved will go through an underwriting analysis, and we'll get a preliminary report. Then we'll go back to the board with a term sheet for final approval, after which we will process the agreement and close on financing and commence construction. There's time frames that have to be adhered to for all of that process. Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners is offering funding to developers to create additional housing units to expand the local inventory of multifamily rental housing units for workforce and affordable. We, the past couple of, yes, we are tracking the attendance. We've got everybody is listed. I'm reading the questions. Thank you. We are tracking the attendance, and the meeting is going to be recorded, so all the people that are dialed in will be noted. If you could, though, I would be helpful if you introduced yourself on the chat with your company and your name, because not everybody's sign in is going to be actually their name. That's a good point. In the past couple of funding opportunities we've had a pretty large amount of funding available. That is not the case this time. This is what we've got left. The board allocated a certain amount of money to be dedicated to for sale housing, and we divided the remaining amount after that. Thank you, everybody. The remaining amount of that on a 60-40 basis, with 60% to affordable and 40% to workforce, after which all the RFPs after this will be all in the for sale arena. Funding is limited and subject to availability. Getting into the dates. April 3rd is when the due date is done. I assume everybody has submitted, that is wanting to do, has submitted a request in the sheet to get the link to the portal in which they can they're making it easier for me to see. Everybody that has gone onto our website, you can submit the application, and then the link to the portal will be sent to you. at which time you can submit your RFP through the portal process, just as we did last time, those of you that remember. Hey, Dane. The proposal due date is April 3rd. We will schedule the selection committee after that. We're targeting April 28th and 29th. That'll give us some time to review all of the proposals and ensure responsiveness. We are targeting tentatively the July 7th meeting for BCC approval. All of the proposals that are submitted that are responsive will be sent to the board. The selection committee is going to recommend funding for those that we can with the money that we have, but all of the proposals will be sent to the board, both that are deemed responsive. Those that are not responsive will not be sent to the board. After which the submittal to the board for conceptual approval, we are going to submit to credit underwriting, at which time the projects that are submitted for credit underwriting will be required to pay the underwriting fee, the fee for underwriting in I think 30 days is what you've got to do that. And then upon receipt of the preliminary underwriting report, we will go to the board for final approval within 60 days, hopefully, depending on scheduling, for the final approval. In the event a project is not started construction within 1 year, following final approval, the county may rescind the award and reclaim the awarded funds. So in order to get submitted for final approval, you have to have your site plan approval in place and be ready to go. Final approval will give us a year to get the construction, the contracts and all the agreements agreed on and get closed, and then get shovels in the ground. Workforce housing development, multifamily development is defined as housing that is affordable to households whose income is between 60 and 110%. Please note, this is not part of the Palm Beach County Workforce Housing Program as administered by the county's Planning, Zoning, and Building Department. The affordable housing multifamily development is defined as housing that is affordable to households whose income does not exceed 80% of AMI. AMI is defined as the most current income limits published by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. Projects are limited to new construction of multifamily housing, including redevelopment, conversion of non-residential properties, and hotel conversions. All projects must result in an increase of county's housing inventory. All county assisted units shall serve households with incomes between 60 and 110%. That is for workforce housing. This is all for workforce housing. No less than 25% of the housing units the county assisted housing units shall serve households with income at or below 80%. We're trying to get a spread. We don't want everybody coming in at 110. The board has identified that as a concern for them. Palm Beach County funds will be provided on a per unit basis, and the total of all county funding shall not account for more than 50% of the total unit cost of the county assisted units. In projects that do not have any other local government obligation to create housing units, the greater of 10 units or 10% of the development must be county assisted. We have a minimum here that we want to be involved with. Projects with other local government obligations do not have a minimum. In the event that you have a requirement from another local municipality or entity to create housing units, we don't have minimums. Funding may not support housing units fulfilling a workforce housing program, exchange option, or municipal program obligation. I think somebody's We're gonna, we've got a mute issue. It may only assist additional units beyond those required under such obligations. Projects involving the acquisition, rehabilitation, or refinancing of existing housing units are not eligible for funding. Single-family housing, transitional housing, emergency shelters, group homes are also not eligible for funding through this multifamily RFP. We're looking for permanent solutions here, rental solutions. Principal owners must follow housing agreements from the federal state, and local governments unless otherwise approved by the county. We have some funding limits and caps based on a percentage of total cost. 25% of the total development cost can be county assisted, but the requirement is no less than 90% of the units shall be workforce housing units, and the project does not have any 9% tax credit and or sale funding. Typically, the 9% comes with the sale funding. 20% of the development costs can be county assisted, but no less than 65% of the units have to be, same thing applies, but it's 65% of the units must be workforce housing units. The project cannot have a 9% tax credit funding. If the project has 9% tax credit funding, the limit on the county funding is 15% of development costs. We're moving on to the affordable housing portion of the program. Projects are limited to new construction of multifamily rental housing developments, conversion of non-residential properties, and hotel conversions. All projects must result in an increase of county's housing inventory. County funds will be provided on a per unit basis, and the total of all county funding shall not account for more than 50% of the total unit cost of the county assisted units. A lot of these are the same as the workforce. In the projects that do not have any other local government obligation to create housing units, the greater of 10 units or 10% of the total development units must be county assisted. Projects with other local government obligations do not have a minimum requirement for number of county assisted units. Only new construction, redevelopment of non-residential properties is allowed. Properties that involve buying, repairing, refinancing of existing homes, single-family homes, transitional housing, emergency shelters, group homes are not eligible for funding under this multifamily RFP. Still on the affordable housing side, housing bond loan program funds may not be used to satisfy a Palm Beach County housing workforce housing program exchange option or municipal housing obligation. HBLP funds may only support additional housing units beyond those required under such obligations, provided the units meet the affordable housing criteria. Principal owners must follow housing agreements from the federal, state, and local governments unless otherwise approved by the county. We have the same cap system here, that the maximum amount of county assistance can be only 25% of development costs if 90% of the units are affordable units and the project does not have 9% tax credit funding and sale funding. It can only be maxed out at 20% of development costs if 65% of the units must be affordable housing and the project does not have 9% tax credit funding. In the event the project has 9% tax credits funding and sale funding, the maximum amount of county participation is limited to 15% of total development cost. All county assisted units shall bear the affordability period as listed below. Workforce, both workforce and and affordable are going to have a minimum of 50-year affordability as a requirement. This is direction from the board. The affordability is going to be secured by a declaration of restrictions. Funding terms. Kind of scanning that. We don't have any. Funding is provided on the workforce housing side. Funding is provided in the form of a loan for permanent financing. It's a hybrid. We will be doing it upon commencement and dispersing during the construction period. Principal and interest payments are required with zero forgiveness of principal. The loan term is limited to 20 years. Interest rate will be 3%. Loan payments will be deferred until primary loan conversion or 30 months from the closing, whichever is sooner. Repayment of the loan may be contingent upon available cash flow in limited circumstances. I would let you know that that's pretty much in the event you have a situation in which a workforce housing program has a affordable portion that is as their non-county assisted units. That's the only that has that requirement from the senior lender. We will accommodate that, but only in those circumstances. Annual monitoring fees will be assessed annually and subject to adjustment. Affordable housing multifamily development. Funding is provided in the form of a loan for permanent financing. Principal and interest payments are required with zero forgiveness of principal. The loan term is 20 years. Interest rates will range from 0 to 1% depending on the developer's for-profit or nonprofit status. Obviously, the nonprofits are going to be at 0. For-profits will be 1%. There's some criteria and limits as to what we will consider. Read the RFP to make sure that you are familiar with the requirements for what we are going to accept as nonprofit. Loan payments may be deferred until primary loan conversion or 30 months from closing. Annual monitoring fee may be addressed and will be assessed annually and is subject to adjustment. Repayment of the loan may be contingent on available cash flow in limited circumstances. Here's a key point. Seniority of the housing bond financing will be determined by the amount of the project financing, unless otherwise approved by the Board of County Commissioners. Another note that you should be aware of on both cases, the loan term is for 20 years and is not subject to refinancing. We are looking to be closed out at the end of 20 years, and we need to recirculate that money. So we're not going to accept refinancing at the end of 20 years. That's something that everybody needs to be aware of. In addition to the requirements of the RFP, I see a question. Hold on.
Want me to read it?
Loans fully amortizing during the permanent loan period for affordable or interest only and balloon payment at principal. It's on on the affordable side. They are going to be on a per project basis, but interest only. It can be either interest only or cash deferred, cash dependent with a balloon. In many cases, we are going to get fairly creative with some of the financing on this stuff in order to make these things work. We understand that we have to get creative with the financing. Yes, subject to underwriting. We do understand that we have to get fairly creative. The loan term is 20 years. we can get creative with some of the amortization schedules in order to accommodate a lower payment that would result in a longer amortization would create a lower payment. However, there would be a balloon at the end of the 20 years as well. So we can get fairly creative. Make sure you read the funding requirements in the RFPs for your respective project carefully. I would recommend that highly because nobody wants last minute surprises. In addition to the RFP, there are some other considerations that are important to the Board of County Commissioners. These are not requirements of the RFP. However, you need to be aware that these are items that have gotten the attention of the Board of Commissioners. And they will be looking at some of these items when we bring them to the board for consideration. They're going to be looking at the fair market rents. And we will be providing fair market rents when we go to the board so that they can have that look. And you should be aware that that's a consideration. It's not a requirement, but the board is the final say on funding. So keep that in mind. They're looking for community impact, things that, other measurable benefits to undeserved populations and some other considerations. They're looking for some creativity here. These are considerations that the board looks at when they're evaluating these proposals when they go for approval. Sustainability and long-term viability, projects that have clear plans for long-term financial and operational sustainability. They're not looking, we got to get paid within the 20 years. We're not looking to, for a project that only lasts 20 years. We're looking for a long-term and sustainable project that is effectively going to be a permanent solution. And they want to make sure that, and one of the other things that they've been very key on is other funding, not just primary funding and then us, but they want to see participation from multiple groups. They want to see a lot of participation from and creativity on the funding sources. We don't need the county to be, the only non-primary source of funding. We're looking for other. One of the other considerations is they're looking at some. We're looking at some litigation history. We want to make sure we're not getting into situations where we have developers or people that have had previous issues with either us or other projects from a litigation standpoint. It's construction, so we understand some of this stuff is to be understood, but we're looking for that kind of stuff. And then the total development cost and the total and the unit cost has been a key point of discussion in almost every single board meeting that we've had. I'm doing my part to move it on to a per square foot basis. I realize that per units, not everybody's building the same unit, so it's not a even comparison on most of these things. So I've also added a per unit, per square foot basis cost too, so that we can have some even playing fields here. Costs is driving absolutely everything, and we understand that. We've gotten through some of the requirements and the stuff, considerations for the proposal submittals. Now we're going to get into the process. Final BCC approval. Eligible projects will be presented to the board for final approval. These are projects that have already received conceptual approval and have started the underwriting process. The conceptual approvals is what will be the initial approval by the board. We'll submit everything to underwriting. You guys will pay the underwriting fee. We'll get a preliminary report, at which time it's kind of a snapshot, so it's we're going backwards. Halfway through the underwriting process, but we'll get a snapshot, and then we're going to be looking to go back to the board for final approval, at which time we will expect that the funding requirements will be, in place, and the funding commitments will be in place, and we'll be looking to verify that you are shovel ready by our definition. We're primarily looking at site plan approval as a guideline for that process. The reason is because one of the requirements is that we have to have shovels in the ground within 1 year after final BCC approval. So that year is pretty much spent trying to navigate through all the financing, finalizing the underwriting and processing and negotiating all the contracts and agreements to get everything in place. And that's not just us, it's the senior lenders and all the coordination it takes, you guys know, to get to a closing and get shovels in the ground. It takes a little bit of effort there. The closing of the housing bond loan will occur at the same time as all the other, or after all the other funding sources have closed. We would require a copy of the construction contract. It doesn't have to be executed, but we want to have confidence as to what the actual cost of the project. I know they changed all the way up until the last second. So we want to have a very strong idea as to what the construction costs are going to be and what we can expect. Because typically, as you guys are aware, you start construction almost immediately after closing of the loans. Disbursement of the housing bond loan funds will be contingent upon issuance of a development order, construction plan approval, a copy of the executed construction contract, issuance of the permits by the local jurisdiction, and disbursement will be done on the basis of either a reimbursement basis or a draw basis. We've been getting kind of creative with the disbursements this time. I think everybody is kind of headed towards the draw basis based on the percentage of completion. But those are things that we will iron out during the underwriting process. A completed registration form for the RFP is required to be submitted to HED in order to be eligible to submit a proposal. The registration form is located at the following link. I think most of you probably have already been there. The email goes to our department, and Chanel and Lori are our two housing bond. Chanel and Lori are our two housing bond specialists here that run the program for us, and they will be responding. You can they'll be tracking those emails and sending you the link to the portal in which you can submit your proposals. Here's the list of requirements and documents that we're looking for in the RFP. We've got 17 of them. Some of them are standard general requirements, and some of them are specific. Obviously, a detailed project description, contact information, organizational chart, respondents' past experience, evidence of site control, development pro forma, a 15-year operating pro forma. Please note that those are two different things. I know most people understand, and that may be kind of a silly thing to say, but I feel like it needs to be said. Development pro forma we're looking for includes sources and uses and how you plan to construct, and then the 15 years the operation after construction. Identify development approval process requirements, where you are in the process. One of the requirements that we have in the RFP is that you have to have submitted for site plan approval prior to the submittal date. You don't have to have site plan approval. You just have to demonstrate that you have at least submitted the process. We understand that it takes a while, and we are willing to work with you and kind of parallel track these processes at the same time to help with the timing and scheduling and all the coordination there. So we have to have site plan approval prior to final approval by the board. So in order to achieve that, you must verify that you've at least submitted for site plan approval by the project submittal date. Project schedule and activity status. We're looking to get an idea as to when we can expect to see people in the units. And so that's a pretty important item. Evidence of development status. Tell us where you are. That's what I was just talking about. Verification that you have submitted for site plan approval and where you are in the process. Documentation from the entity or jurisdiction. We want to know that you have local support. That doesn't have to be financial. It can be some sort of, maybe they're going to help expedite some of the permitting processes. Not every jurisdiction has money to put into it, but we want to know that you've got support from the local municipality or jurisdiction in which the project is. Item number 12, indicate if residential displacement will occur. That's a requirement we have, but typically that should not be the case because we're not funding anything that is a rehab or any kind of situation. So, but sometimes there's some issues that arise out of that, but we need to know about it. Completed and executed copy of the certification form, public disclosure of beneficial interest. We want to know who's all part of the project and the deal. Yeah. Disclosure of relationship with the county. Tell us what any relationships you've got with the county. Documentation of litigation history of the respondent. We tweaked that language in the RFP a little bit. Review it, make sure that it's you're compliant with that. Executed drug-free workplace certification. These are all requirements that we're looking for. They have to be included, and they have to be in conformity with the requirements of the RFP. In the event that any of these are not included or not signed, there's some affidavits in there. You risk the potential of being found non-responsive. Okay. The affordable housing requirements submittals, these are essentially exactly the same thing. Everything's exactly the same. Probably could have done that in one slide, but we did it in two. Project description, contact information, organizational chart, respondent past experience, site control, development pro forma, operating pro forma, development funding source approvals. We need to verify that you have the approvals. We tweak that language. We know that you're not going to get full commitments. We understand that we're probably going to get letters that have a conditional commitment from your primary lender based on a multitude of factors, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those commitment letters. There's a difference between a commitment letter that has a condition and a letter from a funding source that says, hey, we'll look at your application if you submit it. That's not the same thing. So we're looking for some level of commitment from a primary lender and all lenders in the project, not just the primary. If you've got 5 lenders, we're looking for 4 of them in the event that we're the fifth. That's what we're looking for. Obviously, the schedule and activity status, development status, documentation from the jurisdiction, indicate if displacement is in place, copy of the certification form, beneficial interests, disclosure of relationship, litigation history, and executed drug-free workplace certification. Deadline to submit the RFP is Friday, April 3rd at, on 2026 by 6 p.m. We will be here. There's the link. We also have an instruction sheet that you can pull up. And it's your responsibility to make sure that you've got all the materials in there. Make sure all the materials are signed and all the documents are uploaded correctly. If you have problems, let us know. We will certainly do our part to help you with any issues, technical or whatnot, to make sure that these things get submitted. We want to do what we can to help everybody into the process. The selection and scoring process. We have limited funds this year, so there's going to be a pretty tight, I anticipate some pretty tight competition here. The selection committee will evaluate first, before the selection committee gets it, we're going to review all of submitted approvals and verify responsiveness is met. Non-responsive proposals will not be sent to the selection committee. Selection committee will evaluate all the responsive proposals in accordance with the program requirements and criteria. We have established a minimum score of 65 points or higher to be considered for funding, subject to availability of funds. Due to a limited funding, we've added a little bit of additional status here. We will be ranking these projects based on a total score from highest to lowest. And there's the tiebreaker criteria. The highest score is on leveraging, and in the RFPs you'll see the different scoring criteria. The second will be scores on rental affordability, and then the percentage of workforce housing units, in a percentage of county assisted units in the project. The scoring will reflect the priorities outlined in section 3 of the RFP. Final funding recommendations will be based on the committee scoring and are subject to the Board of County Commissioners' final approval. Go back one. I want to let everybody know we are going to submit all of the projects, both those that are recommended by the selection committee and all, let me back up. We are going to submit all responsive proposals will be submitted to the board. The selection committee is going to make their evaluation and have recommendations. Those projects that are recommended by the selection committee will be sent to the board with the recommendation from the selection committee and the department. But all the projects that are responsive will be submitted to the board for consideration. Yeah, now we're ready. The lobbyist cone of silence means a prohibition on any non-written communication regarding the RFP between any respondent or respondent's representative and county commissioner. Well, I'll get to that question in a second. The cone of silence is in effect upon the submittal deadline. The cone of silence terminates when the BCC provides final approval or otherwise ends the RFP process. Violation punishable with a $250 fine, and makes the proposal avoidable. I'm going to actually read the language for the code of silence. Respondents are advised that the Palm Beach County Lobbyist Registration Ordinance, the cone of silence means a prohibition on any non-written communication regarding this RFP between respondent or respondent's representative and any county commissioner or commissioner staff. A respondent's representative shall include, but not be limited to, the respondent's employee, partner, officer, director, or consultant, lobbyist, or any actual or potential subcontractor or consultant of the respondent. The cone of silence is in effect as of the submittal deadline. The provisions of this ordinance shall not apply to oral communications at public proceedings, including pre-bid conferences, oral presentations before selection committees, or negotiations during any public meeting. The cone of silence shall terminate at the time that the BCC awards or approves a funding award, rejects all proposals, or otherwise takes action which ends the solicitation process. When we say that the cone of silence shall terminate at the time of the BCC awards, we're talking about the final approval, not the conceptual, just to clear that potential. I'm coming. All right, next. Go to the next slide. We'll get back to these questions. I see a couple of them. Let's finish where we are. This is a little interim commercial. We are not part of the impact fee affordable housing assistance program process. However, I know that many of you will be submitting for impact fees. That notice of funding opportunity is out right now. You can find it on the county's Housing Economic Development website. And it is based on availability of funds, and it's based on zones wherever your project is. And there's been some significant changes to the impact fee program and the way that this works. It's based on the designated. It's available for road, park, and public building impact fees from the county. It is based on designated impact fee zones. Each zone has available balances as shown below. That was a snapshot from a couple weeks ago. This is a first come, first served program, and we process these things as they go. These numbers will change as projects make it through the process. Developers are encouraged to submit impact fee prior to the Board of County Commissioners conceptual approval. If you're going to be including impact fees, or if you're planning on getting a impact fee waiver of something, make sure that you identify that in your proposal somehow, somewhere. And you know, let us know how you're doing it. I think that when we go to the board with a housing bond program, one of the requirements that we have is that all funding must be in place. And if we go to the board with a project that is demonstrated and said and submitted that they've got all their funding, and then 2 months later we come back with a request for additional funding, that kind of does not look as good as it should, and brings into question some of the previous things. But if you've identified that you are going to for the impact fees, or have submitted or have received impact fees, we can address those right off the bat when we go for the conception. That's about all I've got to say on the impact fees. Just be aware that we don't want to go submit for impact fee approval after we've already said that told the board that you've got all your funding in process. All right, we're on to the questions. I saw a couple. Scroll up. I think there was one before that. Is there?
No,
That was it. Okay.
Yeah. You want her to be done?
Yeah.
I can read.
I
Here, let me,
Hold on.
let me make.
Yeah, let's make it bigger.
Okay, regarding rental affordability, can you confirm that in order,
On.
down.
Other way.
Right.
Can you confirm that in order to earn the full 10 points, rents for county assisted units must be at or less than 60% AMI? In other words, 75% of 80% AMI, which is the highest allowable rental rate in Exhibit A. For 7 points, rents would need to be between 60.8% and 68% AMI. For 5 points, between 68.8 and 76% AMI. So we're talking about the point system for rental affordability in Exhibit A.
Right. Which is the, Exhibit A is the actual, that's the income charts. I think Exhibit B is the actual rentals. I assume this is part of, and we'll document this and answer this, written and posted on the web. We're looking for projects that are gonna offer additional affordability, so you're gonna get some bonus points in there. And so, yes, I'm trying to read this a little bit and do the math.
Rental affordability.
Yeah,
So for the full, is there an indication of different
yeah,
scoring?
we're looking for projects, and I'll address this a little bit more clearly in the written, and I'll make sure that I get this correct. But this is for
The 10 points.
the 10 points, and we're looking for additional discounts on the rent.
So additional discounts will get you more points.
Correct.
I mean, the highest is 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But you won't get to that.
right.
yeah, so there's a,
Allocated the whole 10.
there you go.
So, and it's a little bit more trickier. That's a little bit more involved of an answer, but yeah, I think that you are correct on what your assessment is there. But again, make sure that I will address
We'll
it.
answer it online.
Correct.
The next question is, if you scroll back up, it was a follow-up on interest. Affordable RFP is 1% interest for for-profit developers,
That,
also paid during the construction period, or
it's,
is it 0% interest until conversion to permanent financing?
we allow for payment to be deferred until the end of the 20-year period during the construction period. So I'm not, so no payment. It's not interest-free, it's accrued, but the payments will be deferred.
Interest-free is only for
Correct.
nonprofit developers.
They're on affordable projects. But yeah, I think the question Tim's asking there is during construction, what do they gotta pay? And the answer is, you don't have to pay anything, but whatever payment there is in place, whether it's, interest or whether it's principal and interest or whatever payment we agree on, it will be deferred.
Okay.
Um,
Then please explain the thinking behind such a high number of points to affordability, 20 points. This is much higher than the last round that was 5 points. Rents by the establishment of rent limits are already affordable, and going much lower would jeopardize almost every developer's pro forma. In the last round, there was hardly anyone that received meaningful points on this criterion.
Okay. The points were the same.
hold on a second.
Okay, we're checking, we're checking that.
This is a workforce housing program. Question, and we did bump that up, I think, a little bit, because we're looking to we've got some direction from the board to, focus a little bit more on, rents.
So it was bumped up from 15 to 20, not 5 to 20.
15. But it was 20.
Correct.
Yeah.
We'll address this question online. We'll give you a much more concise,
Okay, so
range. Most of the reasons for the changes in the direction on scoring was based on feedback and responses from the commissioners on what they found more important. So that's how we made adjustments, and we'll continue to make adjustments.
Okay, next one again from Tim. Page 21, item 7 of affordable RFP, you state that closing is contingent on the construction contract being executed after closing. Typically, the construction contract is signed well in advance of closing to complete a plan and cost review for credit underwriting.
We know. We're just trying to make it not a requirement to be executed at closing, but yes. Most of the time, the construction contract is
Yeah,
we'll get,
that one.
I keep getting distracted. Yes, most of the time, the construction contract is executed and ready to go at closing.
So it's just an option.
It's
an option to
It doesn't,
facilitate.
that's not a universal rule, but yes, so we just sort of allow for both. If you've got it closed at closing, that's even better for us, but.
Okay,
And the construction contract has to be signed before we disperse projects. We're just trying to lock in and verify what be confident in the costs that we can expect during the construction project.
all right. Next one from Nathaniel Johns, follow up on rental affordability question. Again, this is a big one, so I'm sure Jeff is gonna address it thoroughly in the written answers that will be posted online, but can you confirm that in order to earn points, all units must fall within these rental thresholds? For instance, if a respondent has an average income of 60% AMI, but the project includes 80% AMI units, we would receive 0 points?
When I answer this on the page, I will provide some examples on how we are going to calculate that so that you'll have a clearer understanding. I will answer that more concisely on the when I post this, and I think we've got everybody's emails, so we will make sure. I mean, it's a requirement when you guys submit that we have your emails, and if you responded, we probably already emailed you, so we'll email a copy of these answers to everybody as well.
Okay, and last one, if we are shovel ready and all funding sources besides BCC have been confirmed, we could theoretically close in September?
Let's do the thing. April,
When's the final
hold on,
approval?
hold on. Let me pull my schedule out real quick. I got it right here. Let's do this math. Theoretically, depending, it's all dependent on the
Final approval.
it's dependent on the underwriter. Underwriter kind of drives all this, and the Board of County Commissioners schedule drives all this. In order to get final approval, we have to go to the board with a preliminary underwriting report. We're going to be doing a selection committee meeting at the end of April. The conceptual approval is targeted for July. You submit, you pay your underwriter and get a underwriting report within 30 days. You'd be in August. If you have site plan approval, we could go to the board. It would be hard to make September. I don't see that we would be able to get to the board that quick. We typically have to have about a 60-day advance notice on final approvals scheduling. Theoretically, I suppose it could happen. I don't see a situation in which it is realistic to have that done. But upon final approval, we could, we'd have to negotiate and navigate the way through
Yeah, and Jeff, this is Jonathan. If I can add, that September probably won't be likely. We still have to negotiate the agreement. We still got to get the agreement before the county attorneys. We still have to coordinate with all the lenders involved in the process. September would probably not be a likely date, but we would definitely target as soon as possible, so that way we can get that project started.
for everybody's, knowledge, that was Jonathan Brown. He's the Director of Housing and Economic Development. He was chipping in there. Yeah, that's exactly right. There's just so much that goes into getting this thing done. I don't see a scenario in which we could have it by September, but
We also have to wait for the final underwrite.
yeah.
And
And
the report that they order, like the appraisal, it takes at least 6 weeks to get that back. So that's gonna be a
Yeah.
real issue.
yeah, the underwriting requirements, I mean, in order to get final approval, that's just a preliminary report. The other requirements from the underwriter typically require a pretty significant amount of time too. Market researches and
Mhm.
appraisals
Appraisal.
and other things, but I mean, we'll do everything we can to make it happen as fast as we can, because we want them in there as fast as possible.
Tom said, so by year's end or Q1 2027, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah, this last one we've got some pretty fast movers, and I think that's probably, but we're moving about as fast as I've seen on the previous RFP process.
Okay. Any other questions? Looks like
That looks like it. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jeff, I just want to add one comment for everyone that's applying through the portal, Cesar. Understand that portal locks at 6 p.m. So your 6 p.m. may not be our 6 p.m., but if you're having difficulty submitting or hitting that final submit button and the portal is locked, you won't get through. So please don't play it that close.
One more question came in. Two more questions quickly, and they will also be addressed in writing on the website as we've mentioned, but what is the thinking behind a much higher interest for workforce versus affordable? If anything, it should be reversed, as affordable has more potential funding sources, sale, LIHTC, HUD, etc. While 3% versus 1% doesn't seem like a lot, it's significant difference from a DSCR perspective.
Debt service ratio. I understand the question, Kurt. This goes back to the very beginning of the housing bond loan process and the concept of where we were going to target. The original concept, and still the concept of workforce housing, is that it would be a market rate project that has a portion of its units designated for county assisted units, whereby you could get a much larger conventional loan and generate higher revenue from the market rate rent units, and that would subsidize the county assisted units. And history has shown us that in some situations, people have gone out and applied for a workforce housing program based on the AMIs that produce a higher revenue, obviously, because it's higher rents. And then the non-county units ended up being affordable and getting sale or some other affordable type projects. And so that's why we allowed for, in very limited situations, a cash flow dependent option on the workforce. Follow in a standard workforce project, you're not going to have the cash flow.
There's a follow-up on that, and before we get to the opportunity zone question that says, would the county be open to a 0% or reduced rate on a workforce housing project if the developer is a nonprofit?
On the workforce housing project, the board has been very clear on the 3% rate. Which is why I think the last RFP we offered it at between a 2 and a 3%. The board has pretty clearly stated they want 3% on workforce housing.
Okay, second to last question, can you explain the opportunity zone location scoring criteria in the workforce housing application? Why was this included this year?
That is a really good question. The county is really working to get opportunity zones and to help us gain some additional incentives and processes and assistance from a federal basis, and we want to encourage projects in opportunity zones. And so we've added that as a scoring criteria to help people incentivize into, and that was a direction from, it's a countywide direction. We're trying to support the countywide direction to migrate towards providing services in county zones, in countywide opportunity zones. And so we're trying to incentivize towards that. That's a general county direction.
The follow-up to that is DDAs and QCTs, they are not the same thing, right? They don't qualify for, DDAs or QCTs won't qualify under opportunity zones.
Right, I think we provided a link. I know the opportunity zones are being, are out there, and so they're, we need to, we're looking for projects within the opportunity zones as shown on the link that was included in the RFP.
And the third question on that same subject is why were CRAs excluded from the opportunity zone definition? And I think Jeff mentioned opportunity zones is a very specific federal program that,
Correct.
yeah, you'll add more information again in the written
Correct.
answers that will be posted. And there was a question about the registration form. When does the registration form have to be submitted by? The registration form only serves to get you a copy of the RFP. So get that in as soon as possible, anytime, so you have your copy of the RFP. The RFP closes, the portal closes exactly on April 3rd at 6 p.m. So do not wait until 5:58 or 5:59 to hit that button, because once it closes, it locks electronically by information technology systems and won't be available. So don't wait until the last minute, as Jonathan mentioned earlier. And
Hold on.
there's
Hold on. Scroll up a little bit.
there was another question about explaining in detail the rent affordability points allocation and the scoring. That was already asked previously, and so we'll make sure that we address that thoroughly in the written responses.
The cone of silence question, written communication.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it only, it's for oral. The cone of silence is for oral. So the written is typically accepted.
Do you want it says subject to FOI. Do you want to explain what FOI? But
No.
okay, so we'll put more information about the cone of silence in the written answers as well, since that was a question that popped up here. Another question, they keep on popping in. We thought we were done, but we got a few more. If a pre-app meeting is required as the first step of the site plan approval submittal process at a local jurisdiction for administrative site plan approval, does the pre-app meeting meet the county's requirement as evidence for submission?
I'm gonna have to, I'll answer that. That's-
Will that suffice?
That's a really good question. I'll answer that
In the writing.
written.
And then.
Because we're looking to make sure that you're in the process of, and have actually submitted prior to, I'll have to review that and answer it in the written. My knee jerk is, never mind, I'm not gonna do knee jerks. I will, address that in the,
Okay. And then, so far, the last question, unless we get any more, is will there be another round of bond proceeds going to vote this November? Should these run out in this RFP? If so, how much?
No. There will not be well, there is, right now, there's no, indication that there's gonna be any more bond proceeds. There are additional bond proceeds that are out there, but they are going to be dedicated and allocated. Anything that doesn't get used in this time and the amount that that the board dedicated to for sale housing projects is still going to be out there. And so from here on out, we are going to be proceeding on strictly until further notice. For sale projects. The next RFP we plan in the late spring, early summer is going to be for sale projects. And currently, right now, all future RFPs will be based on for sale projects. This is going to be the last round for rental development projects. Freedom of information, yes.
That was connected to the cone of silence question,
Cone of silence.
so we
Yes,
answered that acronym, but we'll put more information about the cone of silence again in the written answers. So that looks like everything for now. Maybe we'll leave 1 minute more in case, okay, everyone's good?
just so you know, this does not have to be the end of the question and answer. Any questions that are submitted to HED will be addressed, and those questions will be answered and added to the sheet that will be publicly put on the website. As we get them, we'll add and increase. Any question that gets asked gets answered publicly. So thank you for your attendance, and we're looking forward to the submittals. Let's go build some houses.
Thank you.
I think that's it. All right, thank you, guys.